All right. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining in. Today is October 23rd, which is my mom's birthday, and it feels really funny being here in my room doing a podcast on her birthday because that's kind of her deal. But anyways, we're here and we are 5 days out from my next competition, which will be a QS, which is a part of the regional qualifying series here in Hawaii. And it's at Sunset Beach, which is just about a 10-minute drive away from here at home. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. And yeah, I just thought I'd do a little episode here, try to keep it short and just encourage you guys with what I'm learning, what I've been going through, getting ready for the competition. And yeah, just hopefully encourage you guys with my own experiences and talk about some preparation, mindset, visualization, and also how my faith ties into all that. So exciting stuff. And I got my notes right here, so I'll be looking at those throughout the podcast just to stay on track and not drift too far. So a big question I've been getting asked by a lot of my friends and family lately has just been, how do you feel? Do you feel ready for this contest? And it's a funny question because there's a lot of different ways to answer that. There's a lot of different ways to approach how do you quantify that? Like, is it time in the water? Is it how many good waves I've caught when I've been out practicing? Or is it, how much have you been visualizing? How much have you been thinking about it? How much have you been thinking positively about it? A lot of those, sorts of ideas come into my head, and it's hard to give an exact answer. And it can change too. It's kind of fluid. I think that confidence is, it's not a fixed thing, it changes a lot, and it changes throughout the day even. So in general, I'm feeling good, and that's because I'm feeling really equipped. And I'm also feeling like I trust God a lot with what's coming up. I think that going back a few months to the last competition I had at Ala Moana Bowls on the South Shore of Oahu, that was a huge, I feel like that was just a huge step in the right direction for me as a surfer with competition. I put a lot of time and effort into that event, not just on the water, but actually mostly mentally. And that seemed to make the biggest difference for me. And coming out of that, I felt like I had learned this kind of, not superpower, but I'd learned a new training process that I could use. And so I've been returning to that. Trying to get back to that headspace, that mindset going into Sunset, which has been interesting because I've almost lately, I was just telling a friend the other day, I've almost felt to some extent like there's not as much of a need to get ready because I like already feel like pretty high confidence, or like I know what I need to do to get there. So I'm not like stressed. But that being said, the last at least week or so, I've been really trying to dig a little bit deeper, set aside more time throughout the day where I'm, calming down, getting away from like whatever is bothering me in that moment or distracting me, and thinking about this event and, how I'm going to face it, what it's going to feel like, trying to get into those moments that are coming up by visualizing mostly. And so, yeah, I guess I just will walk you guys through kind of as much as I can recall on the spot right now what I've been doing. A big thing is just exploring the world of mindset and mental preparedness and confidence, which I think has been just, really eye-opening for me. There's a few different books I recommend that I'll try to link to if I can. I'm not exactly sure how to do that, but one big one for me in the last year or two has been The Confident Mind by Nate Zinsser. He's a sports psychologist / all-around psychologist at, or he was, at West Point, which, if you don't know, is a military school on the East Coast in New York. And he's got decades of experience working with different athletes and soldiers and generals and Olympic athletes, like just all across the board, different people, and just some really cool stories about techniques and tools that he's equipped these people with as they go out into whatever it is they do. In fact, some of the people he was talking with were doctors and even businessmen, and it was just mental tools to use to build your confidence, or as he likes to say, your mental bank account on a daily basis, and then also returning to that whenever the big day comes. Like for me, coming up with Sunset, all that sort of different stuff. So that's one book. It's really good. Another one is actually one that I've referenced many times when I've talked with any people on this subject, and that's called Finish First. That's by a guy named Scott Hamilton, who was an Olympic figure skater, which I don't know anything about figure skating at all, but he's just got the most amazing practical tools and experiences that he's, shared in that book that I return to. It's funny, every time I have a big event or something coming up, I always open up his book, and it's like, even though I've read it so many times, it still feels new and fresh every time I read it, because I feel like I can relate to whatever moments he's talking about in that book. And the really cool thing about Scott is that he's a believer, and so he's got a lot of cool conversations about his faith and how it ties into his sports. So that's another big book I'll recommend. I'll leave you with those two recommendations for now, because those are kind of the main two that I've been going through lately. But yeah, I feel like so much of it for me in the past few years has been about rewiring. And so for me, I didn't realize how much in the process of preparing for competition that I tend to think negatively and bring myself down without even knowing it. I'll try to give some examples. So while I was, kind of mentally preparing for my last event at Bulls, we call it, in town, I was pulling up to the parking lot the first day of training there, and I pulled into the spot. It's kind of this like big parking lot in town. There's a lot of buildings around, and I pulled into the spot, and I just couldn't help but remember that feeling of pulling out of that spot the year prior when I had just lost. And so immediately, the first thing I was thinking, I was by myself, the first thing I was thinking was, man, that was such a sucky feeling. And I really hope that's not me again this year. And I stopped, because I was, reading these books, and I was going through all this stuff mentally and trying to remember. And I went, oh, what am I doing right now? I'm just dwelling on a really negative memory and then getting nervous, and I can feel my heart rate coming up thinking about the idea of it happening again this year. And so I had to stop, and that was just this is just one moment, right? But this happened so many times where I had to stop, and the first thing was just acknowledging it, acknowledging what I'm thinking about, because it's really easy to just go through and think first person, think through a whole situation, and then move on and get distracted without kind of stepping back from it and going third person and going oh, whoa, I'm thinking about this right now, which is just kind of a weird thought, but anyways, just acknowledging it was kind of the first thing I would do. And then the second thing I would do would be to kind of deem whether it was worthy of thinking about or not, and whether it was something that would help build me up or break me down. And I found that a lot of the time, the things I would think about would be something that was just destructive. And so in that situation, my first thought is of losing, and I'm thinking about that sucky feeling of getting out early in competition and having to leave, and just you feel very shameful, and you get all these negative thoughts attached to it. And so I stopped and went, okay, this is not helpful. This is not going to help me achieve my goals for this event. And I would just kind of sit there and think about that, and almost think about taking that thought as if it's a piece of paper and crumpling it up and throwing it in a trash can. It's not helpful. I don't need it. And then having a blank piece of paper underneath, what is helpful about this moment and where I'm at right now? How can I replace that thought? And so it was kind of weird, but I just the first thing that came to mind in that situation was there's these, this really pretty harbor right there next to where I was parked, and there's these big skyscrapers, and then you have the surf break in front of the harbor. And I just thought, man, this is a really beautiful, pretty place, and I'm just gonna look around and take this in, because it's a really cool place that I get to practice at, and what a cool place to be able to compete at too. We're not in some dumpy, grindy setup. This is like a really cool place. And so I just like didn't let my thoughts wander any more than that. I just kind of like sat there and looked around and replaced that thought so that the next time I pulled up, when I'm kind of going through that motion again, I would think about, this is a really cool place. I'm so glad I get to compete here. Just take in the positives basically. So that's one example. Definitely took a long time explaining that, but that's like one example of where I would kind of see a negative trend and try to replace it with something good. And that was a tool I used a whole bunch. And then going into the contest, you start to notice less of those negative thoughts and more positive ones. And that does nothing but build up your mental bank account, or your confidence, I should say. I'm trying to think about another tool. Another tool was really like doing things with intention. So it's really easy for me to go through the motions without thinking. Also, it's easy to think negatively, but it's also easy to think or not think, I should say, when you're getting ready for competition or a big, whether it's, a meeting or seeing a friend or whatever it is. It's really easy to like just kind of not be in the moment and like let your mind wander. And so one thing I was doing was with all the different, whether it was stretching or warming up or paddling out, or even talking to people, I would try to think about it and prepare for the moment intentionally. So for one example, I was telling my mom today, something I really enjoyed doing before the bowls event was whenever I would warm up, it's just as an athlete, you warm up every time you go out to surf. So it's just like you do it subconsciously almost. You're not even thinking about it. And instead of that, I thought, like, how can I prepare and warm up in such a way that like makes me feel better and more confident? And that was simply by thinking about the physics of what I was doing and like, okay, like I'm stretching out my body. Like here's, I've worked hard, I've trained, I've got my body in as good of condition as I can get it before this event. And then like going like, well, what does that mean? Like, well, okay, it means that my muscles are strong and they're ready to fire. And in surfing, there's a lot of like squatting and jumping and pressing. And so when you're bouncing on the beach, warming up your legs, I was thinking like, I've done so much squats and so much lifting and so much different weights and jumping and plyometrics and all that. And like, my legs are ready. Like they're springs. And thinking about like, as I'm bouncing, like these are some springs that are ready to just go push and go like, just explode off of the lip when I'm surfing. And then when I'm stretching, I'm thinking like, I've stretched a lot, but like right now I'm stretching so that while I'm going through the motions out there, I'm loose and I'm flexible. And when I'm put in a weird position on the wave, like I'm going to be ready for it because my body's like, I'm flexible. I'm ready to do that. I'm ready to like get in some weird layback or like with my knees kind of like, tucked underneath me weird. Like I'm ready for that. And I'm stretching right now so that I'm like rubber when I'm on the water. And it's important to have like those words, right? Like whether it's like rubber, like, or like loose or flexible. And it's also really good to have like powerful words. Like with my legs, with warming up, like explosion. Like I just want to explode out there. Like I want to have so much energy I can just explode. And thinking through those like one word kind of like pictures in my head was really, really cool because instead of being detached from the moment, I was really focused on what I was doing and how it was preparing me. And it just built my confidence, which was just so cool. So that's another one. And then I'm trying to think about, what else there is. I guess the other tool, aside from, replacing negative thoughts, thinking through what I'm, when I'm being negative and then being intentional in every moment and like being in the present. The other thing is visualizing. And so we visualize all the time, without really calling it visualizing, whether you're just thinking about something that's coming up. It's all kind of visual in your head, or at least for me, it's very visual. And so for me, it was, something I was learning through that experience was visualizing the right things. So as a surfer, visualizing seems like the most impossible task because we're paddling out into the ocean, whether there's going to be any waves or whether it's going to be big or small or whether it's going to be clear water or murky water or whether it's going to be sunny or rainy. It's like you're just in nature and you can't really know what's going to happen. And the way that surf contests work, you're taking your top 2 scores in every heat, which means your top 2 waves, your top 2 rides, they might be, and it's scored on a scale of 1 to 10. So your top 2 scores to make the heat, you might only need 6 points. You might need 2 threes, or you might need 2 eights, which is like those two versions of surfing are very different. And so visualizing, whether you might be getting ready for a contest where the waves are gonna be really poor and you're visualizing surfing really great, and then you show up and then what you have to do to make a heat is much different than you anticipated. That's really difficult. So I've found that it's really important not to visualize so much about the specifics of what happens on the water, but more about the feelings I run into most often in a heat. Those feelings can be whether you need a score, right? So like I might be in 3rd place in a heat and I need a 5. So I've been in that position many times, and it's really important to visualize that moment instead of just like some specific type of moment. It's also really easy to visualize being in 1st place in the middle of a heat, and that feeling of like, oh, am I doing good right now? Do I need to like start worrying about 3rd and 4th place, or do I just keep doing my thing, keep getting good waves? That's another really important thing I've learned, is how to kind of change and edit my visualization so that it really applies when the time comes. The other thing I do when I visualize, if I have the time, is I'll just visualize as many different specific situations as possible. That's not really something I've been encouraged to do, but I've just found it fun, probably because I overthink a lot. But I'll just like, coming up at sunset, the wave has 100 different looks. It can be, there's about 250 yards of like range from one side of the lineup to the other. And the whole entire, that whole entire lineup could be surfed in a competition. But it just depends on the swell direction and the wind and the tide where the waves will be breaking. And so visualizing something like that, where you're going to paddle out at, where the waves will be breaking, can be really hard. But one fun like thing I do in my free time is just like, I'm just going to give myself a certain situation. Like it's, a north swell or it's a west swell and it's this size, and I'm riding this board, this specific type of board for these conditions. And like just going through and I'm winning the heat in one, and another I'm losing the heat most of the heat. Going through every single different situation, it's just a fun practice for me. And it for me, it does build my confidence, probably in slightly less way than other types of visualization do. But it's fun to at least, show up on competition day and say, I visualized this exact moment. Like I know exactly what I'm getting myself into. That's really fun. The other thing I'd like to add is the fact that something I've found more recently with where I'm at on this regional qualifying series that's a part of the WSL system, is that here in Hawaii, we have a lot of time between competitions, and it's really important to have moments, whether it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks before a competition, where you decide that it's time to basically set everything aside and make this your priority. And I did that with the last event in Ala Moana at Bulls. And I feel like that was so helpful because it's really easy as a surfer to go day to day without really having a change up in routine, what you're doing. And then a contest will kind of come out of the blue, and then you'll just kind of keep doing what you're doing. And then it's contest day, and you kind of feel like this like weird, like it feels like any other, like it feels like there's no divide between like your intentional focus for competition or for this event and just your everyday life. And that's because I'm doing the same thing every day, which is just surfing and training. And so it's really important. It's been really important for me to set aside. For me, I really like kind of that 2 week window or 3 week window before the event where I go, okay, my focus now is this one thing. It's winning at sunset, or it's winning at Bulls. It's winning whatever it is, and kind of putting every other priority like aside from that. And it's some really good advice that I actually recently, I was talking with John Florence about it, and he just said he has experienced this thing where he finds his best success where at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of the season, the beginning of an event period, he just goes, this is my focus and nothing else matters. Like that singular, just that like singular drive. And when you do that, the questions in your everyday life become really easy. Somebody wants to hang out. You got, some other obligation that, is kind of optional. It's really easy to just go, nope, not right now. This is within my window of focus, and I'm not stopping. I'm not doing anything else until this window is over. And so for me, I feel like that's been really cool. Getting ready for sunset has been really fun because I've actually learned to really like the wave, even though it's a pretty unfavorable wave for not only a goofy footer, but just like a young surfer in the North Shore. It's a pretty open ocean, just wonky, just slopey. I don't know. It's not anybody's favorite wave. It might be a few people's favorite wave, but having that singular focus of like, this is where I'm surfing today, and I'm gonna put 100% into the session, it has been really cool because all of a sudden I'm like kind of starting to like that routine of like being out there, and I'm enjoying it. And so that's been another really cool thing. So yeah, that's the last thing I wanted to mention about my preparation lately. So anyways, there's so much more I could say, and there's so much more I have to learn on the topic of preparation and mental, preparedness and confidence and just mindset, all that stuff. And I honestly love to learn about it. I love to talk to people about it. Right now I'm working with a sports psychologist. I've loved that so much because I'm talking to someone that understands my mind almost better than I do. Which is just a crazy thought that people are that well learned in what they know, or in what they choose to study. But yeah, it's like my favorite topic, one of my favorite topics, and obviously a lot more to be said about it. But that's all I'm going to share for now. Some things I have to keep as a secret. I'm still competing, so right, I gotta save some for myself. Can't give all my secrets away. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was the intersection between my faith. Trusting God and hoping and really being, attaching my identity to the results of what happens. So I have obviously this really big competition coming up. I'm in a situation where I've been trying to qualify for the Challenger Series, which isn't the end goal. The end goal is the tour, the world tour. But below that, there's the Challenger Series. And then where I'm at right now is the regional series. And it's been a goal of mine to qualify for the Challenger Series for quite some time now. And every competition is another chance to get closer to that. I had a pretty good result earlier in the year at our first event at Bowls. I had an equal fifth. And they take the top 5 at the end of the season to qualify for the Challenger Series. And so I'm sitting at 5th right now going into this event. My little brother asked me today if this is the biggest event of my life. And I said, well, technically, yes, but I'm just going to say no because every event is supposed to be the biggest of my life. But it does feel like there's some added pressure to the situation because there's more events ahead. So if I do poorly in this one, I have another chance to, get my ranking back up. But this is a big deal. And this is, something that could cause a lot of stress and anxiety and nerves going into it. And it's something that I could really easily give the most focus on, right? So it could easily become that. And so there's this kind of interesting, I think it's a tough one to work out because mentally, this is just kind of all internal dialogue. But I go, you know what, Lord, if it's your will, I know that you'll get me through this event. You'll give me the result I need. You'll give me the scores I need every heat to get where I need to go so that in the end, whatever it is that you have for me will happen. It's also really easy to go like, but surfing is my thing. So like, I need to win this. Like if I don't win this, then it kind of goes all downhill from here. And this could ruin my confidence. Then I could do bad in the next event. And like, why wouldn't God just give me this result? If it's good for me, if it's good that I'm a surfer, then I should just get this result. And then there's this like kind of like inner, like this like battle of like whether I'm going to be okay if I win or if I'm going to be okay with if I lose. Like it's a really, really tough battle when what you want starts to get in the way of your kind of focus. And so as Christians, it's not supposed to be my first priority to go out and win this competition and to be on the Challenger Series and then eventually on the tour and to be a world champion. But right now it's super important to me. So how do I be okay with that? Like it being in second place. And it's really, it takes some stepping back. And for me, it's more about like, I mean, I guess I just like to think about bigger picture. Like if I get to the end of my life and I've got all these things I want, but I realize that it was only ever what I wanted, it wasn't what God wanted, that scares me like in a big way. And it's sobering, because it's kind of like, I think that God will give us what we want if we want it bad enough and we're willing to sacrifice his will. Like if we don't want what he wants, but we just want what we want, he'll give it to us sometimes. And that's a scary thing, because like, I don't want to be in that position where, you know, I get to the end and God is looking at me like, yeah, you got it because you really wanted it, but it's not what I wanted for you. And you could have had, you know, all this, right? Whether it's my witness to other people, whether it's something that wasn't even related to surfing, whether it was a ministry opportunity or showing love to someone, right? Like it wasn't like, if it wasn't what he had for me, but I still got it, that's not what I want. And so ultimately, when I have that sort of decision where I go like, it's not what I want ultimately, that informs all my other decisions and my other thoughts throughout the day and getting ready for a contest like this, where I just kind of go like, this is my job. It's what I've been given. It's like my gifting and my ability right now in life. And I'm so grateful for it because I love it so much and I love to do it. But if I don't get the result that I'm working towards, it can't be the end. Because if I make that the end goal, and if I don't get it, and then I need it that much more, like I'm going down the wrong path. I'm already going down the wrong path with my heart and with my mind. And so there's this like place I get to, and it's quite often, it's not just like a one-time decision, right? It's like every time a contest comes up, every time I start thinking about contests, there's this conversation that arises again, where I just go like, you know what, Lord, like this isn't what I want ultimately. What I want is like exactly what you want for me. I want my eyes to be open to like what you're doing with my current situation, whether it be in surfing or in something completely unrelated. That's what I want the most. And I want to just like follow that thing. But I understand right now, I have eyes to see and like the mind to understand that I have this ability that I can use for your glory, whether I win or lose, but I want to just like work at it. Right. So what does that look like in practicality? It looks like me showing up to this event, you know, sunset or whatever event I have, and training the way I'm supposed to, thinking, mentally preparing the way I'm supposed to, visualizing, putting the effort in, but not at the expense and not at sacrificing what God has for me in that process or through that process. And so when the time comes, when the result comes, whether I go all the way and win the contest or I lose in the first heat, when I truly believe that what I'm doing is for God and the way I'm preparing is for God, then I also have complete trust that what is happening is exactly what God wants for me. And therefore I don't need to be upset. I don't need to worry about the numbers, the rankings, the sponsors. I don't need to worry about any of that stuff, because my reward isn't in that thing. It could be through that thing, but it's not in that thing, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. But anyways, that's my kind of encouragement. The other thing that I wrote down is something that I remembered from Proverbs. It's Proverbs, let me find the reference here. Proverbs 16, 32 through 33. And this is related to kind of the environment that I'm in as a surfer, where I'm in a very unpredictable environment where things could go my way or they could not. And it might not even be up to me. I might do everything the right way and the ocean just didn't, you know, like the conditions just didn't line up with my strategy, basically. And then I might lose the heat, and it might not even really feel like it's my fault. It might feel like it's kind of luck, right? And so that idea reminded me of the verse in Proverbs 16, 32 through 33. It says, better a patient person than a warrior, one with self-control than one who takes a city. The lot is cast into the lap, but its every decision is from the Lord. And the idea of God being sovereign over the luck of the draw is just such a cool idea to me, because the anxiety, the nerves, all the different confusion and stress that might come from this preparing for something that feels like luck, all of a sudden is just gone because it's not luck. Its decision is God's decision. And so that for me is another really, really cool, comforting fact going into an event like this where, yeah, I'm going to prepare. I'm going to do everything I can because I'm able to and I want to, and it feels right. But then when the time comes, when it is the luck of the draw, as they would say, or it's not the result I want, like it's still from the Lord. And so, yeah, the most important thing there is really walking that walk and not just saying it, but really waking up every day and believing it and going forward with that belief and not like telling myself that and then acting a different way and letting my thoughts get away from that. So that's kind of my encouragement. One really cool example that I thought of when I was, preparing this was Tim Tebow, who, if you're in the world of athletics, or even more specifically Christian athletics, Tim Tebow is obviously like one of the knights of the round table. Like he's just the man, and he had one of the craziest, most amazing careers in college, and then had kind of like this unfortunate career in the NFL that ultimately did not work out, and he ended up retiring from it really early on, like way before anyone could have predicted when he was in college. And what came out of that is such a testament to his faith and his belief that really every decision that's, not in our control is actually from God. And to just see what he's done for the Lord and not for men after his career kind of went sideways is the coolest thing ever, because he loves it and he knows that it's way more meaningful than anything he could have done in his own effort as a football player. So that's a huge encouragement to me. People like him, stories like that. And also it's like, it's in those losses where you can really show, and not just losses, like whether it's a big career loss or it's like just, an event loss. Those are the moments where you can really become a light to the world around you, whether it's to the believers just in your local church, or whether it's just the people on the outside that are looking in going like, why are you not upset? Like, why does this guy not seem to take it? I've almost been told like, you don't take it seriously enough. And that's a hard one to deal with, because it's like, wait, no, I do take it seriously enough. But then at the same time, like, yeah, but I don't, because like I did everything I could, and I know that the decision of the final result wasn't mine, it was God's. And so like, I'm just trusting that, and I'm going to be okay with whatever it is, because I know he has what's best for me. So like, I feel like that opportunity too in the low moments is kind of one of the coolest opportunities. So the encouragement for you guys as I wrap up is basically, yeah, dream big, work really hard at what it is that you have in front of you, the giftings, the abilities, the desires God has given you. But don't let the prioritization of your success in that thing come before God's work in your life and what his will is for you. And ultimately, like, what cards you get dealt. Because like, you're not supposed to be mad about that luck. Like whatever it is, whether it seems like bad luck or good luck, it's not luck. It's just God's decision. So, anyways, that's my encouragement to you guys. Hope that you're doing great, and I'll be checking in with you guys soon after this event to let you know how it went, which is really exciting. I might be talking to you again before that, but as this is kind of related to this event, yeah, it'll be fun to kind of come back and share my experience with it, how all the different tools going into it have, shaped my experience and helped me or didn't help me. So yeah, thank you for listening. God bless, and I will see you soon.